Adventures on the Sword Coast, Chapter 3. After resting in the southern foothills of the Sword Mountains overnight to regain their strength after the recent adventures in the Dwarven excavation, the party continues east towards the location of Gnomengarde in search of a magic weapon that could aid them in defeating the dragon that is terrorising the local area. It is a beautiful spring morning, and after enjoying a small breakfast, the party set off. They arrive at a stream leading into a lake. Mist obscures the far side, and the thundering noise of rushing water can be heard in the distance. Two small islands can be seen in the lake, covered with unusual looking toadstools, almost 2 foot tall. Some red, some blue, others green. Rocky outcrops surrounding the lake with openings, possibly caves up high. A path can be seen winding its way up the east wall to one of the cave mouths. Fairfax Whitbean wades out across the lake to investigate the mushrooms on the nearest island, accompanied by Princess Lady Anastasia. She performs a nature check that reveals they are indeed mushrooms, but of an unknown variety. Fairfax senses that there is strong natural magic all around, especially from the Mushroom Islands. Watching from the shoreline, Alexis Songblessed casts Divine Sense, but there does not appear to be anything untoward in the area. Meanwhile, Zurek crosses the river to the far bank, checks the path leading upwards and notices that it is regularly used. Fairfax informs the party that the mushrooms are probably magical. On hearing this, Princess takes out her stuffed Chow Chow puppy and rubs it against the mushrooms, but apart from making the dog's fur multicoloured, they have no other effect. Fairfax stares at Princess in disbelief with his mouth wide open. Leaving the mysterious multicoloured mushroom islands behind, the party head up towards Zurek, who is standing at an opening in the side of the rock face. As they reach the top of the path, a corridor can be seen going into the mountain, which is well lit with torches at regular intervals. Zurek shouts down the corridor in a booming voice, "Hello, gnomes!" Taking a perception check, he only hears his own words echo back at him, "Hello, gnomes." As he proceeds east along the corridor, he hears a voice say, "Ah, intruders are here. We shall try out our new technique." This is followed by a vigorous sound of bicycle pedalling and chains rattling as they start to move. Zurek is surprised and uses his dexterity to try and avoid a crossbow bolt that comes flying towards him from the south corridor. It hits him squarely in the shoulder. Ahead of him, he sees a gnome on a strange contraption that was the source of the crossbow bolt. He lunges at the machine, but it is quite sturdy and little damage is caused to its structure. The gnome, sitting inside the weird contraption, says, "Now leave, please, go away." Princess Lady Anastasia moves into the room, ready to deflect any arrows that may come her way, and says to the gnome, "We mean you no harm. We come in peace." Undeterred, the gnome starts pedaling faster, and another crossbow swings into place on the contraption as he cries out, "First real test of my new invention." Alexis Songblessed also tries to calm the gnome by stating that the party has been sent by Sildar Hallwinter in search of a magical item to defend Phandalin from a dragon. However, seeing the gnome continue to pedal his machine, Zurek hits the contraption with his mace. The gnome cries out, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Amos the Destroyer, seeing that the gnome, who appears slightly mad, is not going to listen to reason, he grabs him and pulls him out of the machine and explains, "We are here to parley." The gnome is disappointed that his contraption has not worked, until Amos points out that there is an arrow sticking out of Zurek's shoulder. As the party talk to the gnome, Fairfax heads up the north corridor to peek into what appears to be a dining room, with table, chairs and a stout wooden cabinet. Fairfax then rejoins the party and talks to the gnome, who explains that he is the greatest inventor in all of Gnomengarde. Amos asks about weapons to defeat a dragon, so Fairfax pursues this line of conversation. The gnome, who does appear to be very eccentric, pulls out a canister of fly spray that he claims can defeat any dragon. Princess, using insight, can't tell if he's being truthful or not, but it does appear as though he may be quite mad. Alexis Songblessed hints that he may not be the greatest inventor as he claims, which hurts the gnome's feelings, who immediately tries to get back into his crossbow contraption. Luckily, Amos has a good grip on his collar, to which the gnome starts singing, "I am the best inventor of all." At this point, Princess disables the machine with a few good whacks. The gnome immediately wriggles free and starts tinkering with the machine to fix it. Amos says, "Leave him be, fixing his machine will keep him busy." Zurek heads along the south corridor and the party follows. Before leaving the gnome, Alexis casts Suggestion and sends the gnome off to help Sildar Hallwinter defend Phandalin from the dragon. As Zurek continues south along the corridors, he hears the thunder of a waterfall in the distance, almost blocking out any other sounds. Fairfax takes the lead and comes to an opening where he sees two gnome guards positioned on a rocky ledge 10 foot up from the floor. Fairfax introduces himself and the party and explains they have come from Phandalin and on a quest for Sildar Hallwinter to find a magical weapon to defeat a dragon. He quickly shows them the letter of introduction from Sildar. At first they are suspicious of the letter and accuse the party of being shapeshifters. Thinking quickly, Alexis holds up a silver piece to persuade the gnomes they are not shapeshifters. It is well known throughout the land that shapeshifters cannot touch silver. The gnomes lower their weapons after Alexis Songblessed convinces them they are not shapeshifters. After some discussion, the gnome guards suggest that the party speak to the two great gnome inventors, Fibblestib and Dabblebob, who may be able to help with a magical weapon to defeat a dragon. Asking for safe passage, the gnomes let the party proceed west towards the sound of the waterfall. They are flattered that Phandalin recognises the great Gnomengarde. Zurek, as a joke, tells the gnomes that a rock is changing shape, then grins and tells them to stay frosty. As the party continues on, Alexis Songblessed notices that his fingers are now all 2 inches longer. Curious. Amos stands looking out across a rope bridge that spans the water as it disappears out of view to the south down a waterfall. Mist hides the water's destination. Princess Lady Anastasia decides to bound over the rope bridge, which sags under her weight as she reaches the middle. Losing her footing, only her dexterity manages to save Princess from falling into the water below. Carefully she proceeds across the rope bridge and makes it to the other side. Fairfax decides to cross next, followed by Amos, Alexis and Zurek. The mist hangs in the air and hides the corridor and the room to the west that has a faint whirring sound coming from within, disguised by the thunderous sound of the waterfall. Amos shouts, "It's a trap!" Fairfax Whitbeam stands at the entrance to the room and notices 2 large sets of interlocking whirling blades. Princess investigates the mechanism, but sees no way to stop the blades or any pattern in their movement. Impulsively, Zurek leaps into the room and tries brute force to halt the blades. To his surprise, even his mighty strength cannot stop the blades and is cut badly in his attempt. Only Stowe endurance saves him from excessive damage. Seeing Zurek in trouble, Amos also jumps into the moving blades, but his dexterity fails him and he is also cut. However, the combined strength of these two mighty fighters, the blades gradually come to a stop. The rest of the party take this opportunity to run through the now stationary blades. Princess Lady Anastasia notices a lever on the other side and pulls it. Cautiously, Zurek and Amos release their grip on the mechanical blades and realise that Princess has locked them into place by throwing the lever. Zurek holds out his hand to Amos, and the two lock arms, biceps bulging. Zurek pulls Amos out of harm's way in a display of gratitude. The party heads on, with Fairfax leading the way, followed by Alexis, Zurek, Princess and Amos. They arrive at a large room to see two gnomes tinkering with various items strewn across the floor. To the west is a raised ledge with a plinth that has a large book sitting proudly on display. Fairfax pulls out the letter of introduction from Sildar Hallwinter and explains their quest in search of a magical weapon to defeat a dragon. The first gnome, called Fibblestib, is working on a mechanical gun-like object that fires a sanity ray, but he has not yet had the opportunity to try it out yet. Dabblebob is tinkering with a straitjacket that can hold those who experience madness. Fibblestib asks the party for help in finding two missing gnomes and the apparent madness befalling those in Gnomengarde. The sanity ray is intended to fix these ill gnomes. If it does not work, then Dabblebob has invented a way to restrain them in a straitjacket. The Gnome King is so afraid that he has locked himself in his chambers and won't come out. Fairfax inquires which two gnomes had gone missing. It appears their names were Orin and Warren. Fibblestib explains that there were 22 gnomes in Gnomengarde. Now there are only 20. Fairfax corrects this number to 19, as Alexis has said the mad gnome they had met earlier off to defend Phandalin from the dragon. Amos suggests that the party help Fibblestib with the missing gnomes and the Mad King, in return for a magical item to help defeat the dragon. A deal is struck. The party inquire as to where the two gnomes went missing. Fibblestib says they were near the kitchen, possibly next to the crab barrels. Amos also asks about the book on the Lectern. The gnome says it is a magical book and not for the likes of us to look at. Amos discreetly looks at Alexis' fingers to see if they have grown any more, or if his nose has grown too. Dabblebob says that the king is round the bend, which echoes strangely around the room. Fibblestib checks his sanity ray machine and gives it to Fairfax Whitbeam, and babbles on about how it can sanitify the king, who is now quite mad. He needs to sanitize him just to point and click. The machine only has one charge, so don't miss when you fire it at the king. Fairfax heads off down the west passage, followed by the rest of the party, which leads to a set of ornate grand double doors, decorated with cogs and mechanical parts. After listening carefully, Fairfax and Princess open the doors to reveal a large throne room. The thrones are made from scrap metal of all types of colour and shape, which shines off the lit torches on the walls. In the centre of the room is a large rug. Fairfax and Princess search the room, with Princess noticing a worn area to the northeast and carefully investigates this spot, which may conceal a secret door. Amos explores the thrones but doesn't find anything. Princess Lady Anastasia finds a hole in the wall and places her fingers inside. Feeling a latch, she moves it, and with a loud click, a door is revealed. Opening the door, she shouts, "Ollie Ollie Oxenfree!" and hears mumblings behind another door at the end of a short passageway. She shouts again in a playful voice, "I can hear you." Gnome voices can be heard on the other side of the door saying, "Oh no, they are coming!" Princess Lady Anastasia pushes open the far door and enters the room, followed by Amos. Two gnomes in fine clothes are hiding in what appears to be a bedroom. Terrified, the gnomes are shouting, shape changers, help!" Princess pulls out a silver coin to show the gnomes that they are not shape changers. Fairfax Whitbeam aims the sanity ray machine at the Gnome King and pushes the button. At the same time the beam of light from the contraption hits the king, Fairfax sprouts a pair of beautiful butterfly wings as he gently floats off the ground. Princess looks across, smiles and says, "You look so pretty." Amos and Princess try to restrain the fleeing gnomes. The king slips past Princess, but Amos grabs him firmly by the collar. Alexis casts Command on the other saying, "Come here," which he does. At the same time, Alexis' skin turns a bright blue colour. Princess uses her now multicoloured Chow Chow puppy to calm the Gnome King down as he struggles with Amos. Looking around the room, Amos warns the magic users in the party to stop casting spells as they seem to produce unwanted side effects. Fairfax points the sanity ray at the other gnome, but nothing happens. It appears to be a one-shot magic item. Reflecting on the warning from Amos, Princess uses Predestination cantrip but sees no ill effects. Maybe this magic needs to work on a proper spell. So finding a small cave spider, she casts Speak with Animals and starts talking to the little spider. Amos now observes the appearance of small dancing lights in a 10-foot circle around Princess Lady Anastasia's head. He thinks to himself, "I told you so." Princess, pleased with her new dancing lights around her head, talks to the spider, who places the image of a carpet attacking one of the Gnome Kings in her mind. She turns and asks the king why a carpet might be attacking the gnomes. The king in terror replies, "Yes, the carpet attacked me! The carpet attacked me!" Amos, remembering the rug in the throne room, runs next door and destroys the rug with his mighty grey axe, then says, "Seems like a rug to me." Fairfax moves to the south door. It is locked. Amos demands the key off the gnome, who unlocks the door and lets the party go on their way. Alexis Songbless leads the party south to another door which is also locked. Princess tries to smash the door down with no success, so Alexis gives it a good kick and the door swings open. "Nice," says Princess with a large smile. The room is packed full with machinery, cogs and gears, clearly some sort of storeroom. It is so full it is difficult to even move around inside. As Princess, Fairfax and Alexis search the storeroom, Amos and Zurek take the opportunity to have a short rest and heal the wounds inflicted when they wrestled with the mechanical whirling blades earlier. Princess checks the walls, but finds no hidden doors. Fairfax finds a pole that could be magical, but would need identifying properly. Alexis discovers a small copper amulet with tiny interlocking gears. This too appears to be magical. Fairfax Whitbeam suggests that the party go back to the dining room they discovered near the entrance to Gnomengarde in an endeavour to find the two missing gnomes. As they pass through the room where Fibblestib and Dabblebob are working, Fibblestib asks how the sanity ray machine worked. Fairfax points at the butterfly wings he now has. The gnome takes the gun back and immediately starts tinkering on it again. As the party continue on, Alexis shouts, "And look at my blue skin!" As the party move back through Gnomengarde, over the rope bridge and past the gnome guards, they make their way to the dining room. Fairfax continues through the room, up a corridor, arriving in what appears to be the kitchen. A vast array of foodstuff can be seen, with 5 gnomes working on tables, preparing food, chopping multicoloured mushrooms and boiling them in large pots. Pulleys and levers are all over the room. It is a hive of activity. The gnomes welcome the party to their kitchen and state they are cooking the newly harvested mushrooms. Fairfax is offered a mushroom and it tastes fine. He also samples their wine that has a mushroom earthy taste. They discuss the 2 missing gnomes and asked how they disappeared. The gnomes say that they were in Gnomengarde one day and then they didn't come for breakfast the next day. Princess uses her insight but can't tell if they are truthful or not. Alexis asks about bedrooms and Amos bizarrely checks for rugs. The party continues south and then up a flight of stairs to a pantry piled high with mushroom bread and other food stuff. Amos searches the room but finds nothing of note, not even a rug. As they continue on to the next room, they discover 2 unusual contraptions parked at either end of the room in the alcoves. Made with wooden barrels, with mechanical legs and huge pincer claws. Inside, a seat and various control levers and knobs can be seen. These look like barrel crabs. Princess Lady Anastasia jumps into the barrel crab nearest to her, and Alexis Songbless climbs into the other. After a few attempts, Princess manages to get her crab moving. Alexis, not impressed, vacates his machine. The party continue onwards, with Princess scuttling behind in her slow and cumbersome barrel crab. Heading back towards the gnome guards, the party continue along a corridor to the east, which opens up into a large room containing lots of barrels. Adorning the walls are a large number of ornate rugs. Amos, seeing these rugs, charges into the room and starts attacking the rug on the north wall. Distracted, as he starts to chop up the rug with his grey axe, one of the barrels sprouts a large pseudopod, which lands a solid blow on the back of Amos. Covered in a sticky adhesive substance, he is held fast. To the shock and surprise of Fairfax, another barrel to the south corner transforms into a hideous creature and moves forward to attack him. The crushing blow from this creature critically injures the sorcerer. Until now, Amos the Destroyer has been quite subdued in this adventure, but this cowardly sneak attack incenses him into a fit of rage. In a wild frenzy, the barbarian swings his grey axe and causes significant damage to the creature. Zurich charges at the second shapeshifter attacking Fairfax and scores at least 1 solid hit with his mace. The Great Mimic, for that indeed is what it was, stunned by the initial onslaught from Amos, attacks him with his teeth, which cause little damage, but the acid from its mouth burns into his arm badly. Fairfax Whitbeam casts Shocking Grasp, and lightning causes the giant mimic next to him to yell in pain as he manages to make good his retreat. Princess, still in the barrel crab, jumps out in a rage and recklessly attacks the giant mimic next to Zurek, swinging her grey axe to land 2 punishing blows. Alexis Songblessed also joins Zurek to land blows on the creature and then casts Smite to cause yet more damage. The giant mimic retaliates against Princess, but Alexis casts Cutting Words to minimise the damage inflicted by the flaying pseudopod. Amos the Destroyer now recklessly attacks the giant mimic, landing 3 mighty blows with his grey axe. The creature looks much worse for wears now. At the same time, Zurek pushes on with his attack, which also inflicts great damage on the mimic. The mimic, looking quite injured, lashes out at Amos with advantage, but causes minimal damage. Fairfax casts Magic Missile to help Amos, and 5 magical darts impact the giant mimic, causing it to keel over, dead. Amos turns to thank Fairfax Whipbeam with a wry smile, but just as the side of his mouth begins to curl, Fairfax blinks and disappears. How rude, thought Amos. Princess recklessly strikes the remaining giant mimic twice with a great axe, shattering the foul creature, then calms herself with her multicoloured Chow Chow puppy. The battle is over and the mystery of the shapeshifters is resolved. Fairfax has not gone far. He found himself about 70 feet away from the party on a ledge overlooking the lake. Casting the last spell must have caused him to teleport away. He hurriedly makes his way back to the party. The party grab bits of the giant mimic to show what the reported shapeshifter was to Fibblestib and Dabblebob. Then they make their way back to the gnome inventors. They let the Gnomengardes know about the good news as they pass. Arriving back at the gnome inventors, Fibblestib is still upset that Fairfax has broken his sanity ray, as he still can't fix it. Amos throws the carcass of the giant mimic on the floor and asks the gnomes for their part of the deal, a magic item to help defeat the dragon. Fibblestib goes to the storeroom but is upset when he returns as the door has been broken and a magical pole and a small copper amulet has gone missing. He had intended to give these to the party. Alexis says it might have been the mimic that broke the door and took the items. Fibblestib looks at him closely, but seems to believe his explanation. Fibblestib, in return for the services, gives the party a Hat of Wizardry and a wand of Pyrotechnics. Having explored the majority of Gnomengarde, they bid the gnomes farewell and continue back to the campsite from the previous night to rest. Arriving at the campsite, the party start a fire and prepare a hot meal. It has been a long and arduous day. They discuss the magical items they have earned. A pole of collapsing. This 10-foot pole collapses into a foot-long rod on a word of command. Another word will cause the rod to revert to a pole. Clockwork Amulet made of copper. The amulet contains tiny interlocking gears powered by Mechanicus magic, a plane of clockwork predictability. If you put an ear to the amulet, you can hear faint ticking and whirring noises coming from within. Each day it can be used to make one predictable attack against an opponent. The Hat of Wizardry. This antiquated cone-shaped hat is adorned with gold crescent moons and stars. Wearing it, you can use it to focus your spell casting of a wizard's spells and allow you to attempt to cast a cantrip you don't know. The wand of Pyrotechnics can create a harmless burst of multicoloured light at a point of up to 60 feet away. The burst of light is accompanied by a crackling noise that can be heard up to 300 feet away. The light is as bright as a torch flame, but only lasts a second. As the adventurers talk about the magical items, the adverse effects of casting spells in Gnomengarde wear off. Fairfax loses his butterfly wings. Alexis is no longer blue, and his fingers go back to normal length. Disappointingly, the lights dancing around Princess Lady Anastasia's head fade. Although as she turns to go to sleep, she smiles that her Chow Chow puppy is still multicolored.